Alright, so this past weekend we got a brand new serial killer horror film titled Longlegs. I got a chance to see it. Here's my review. Alright, so if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that horror is possibly my favorite genre. I am a big sucker for horror movies. I love getting scared, even if that means I lose sleep at night. I love getting scared. So, when I heard that Longlegs might be the scariest movie of the decade so far, this shot up my most anticipated list. It started at the not even anticipating it, and then I got really excited for the movie, so I went to see it on opening weekend. Just a couple days ago. I let time pass by so I can, get the movie, let it sink in my head a little bit before I talked about it. This is going to be quite a long review, I think. I got a lot of things to say about this movie. So tell me down below, what is your thoughts on Longlegs? And with that said, subscribe. We are at 186. It's almost the middle of July. But if we can get to 200 soon, there will be a special video coming for you guys. And with that said, Longlegs is hard to talk about because, on one hand, I think it's probably the best movie of the year. No, I don't think it's the best, but it might just be my personal favorite. It's hard because I'm trying to think, because on one hand, I adored this movie. I think it's a masterpiece. On the other hand, it's flawed. It has flaws here, but it's a masterpiece in the way it's able to explore the horrific elements here. And so it's hard to talk about because I think the movie's so good at what it succeeds to do, which is to be a horror movie. But there's issues, which is weird. So let's start talking about some positives here. There's quite a bit, and I'm going to say quite a bit here in this section of the video, because there's so much I loved about this movie. For one, the performances, especially Nicolas Cage. He's an actor that is phenomenal. Like, anything he does just kind of blows me away, because he'll be in movies like The Retirement Plan from last year, which is very obviously a kind of like direct-to-video movie, feels that way, the vibes all like that. So he'll be in that movie. And then he'll be in like something like Mandy or Willy's Wonderland or all those kinds of movies. And then he'll come here and he'll give the best performance of the year. Whoa, he was terrifying. Terrifying. Without spoiling, because I'm going to try to avoid as much spoilers as I can, there will be a little bit of spoilers in this video. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch the movie before watching this video, because there will be slight spoilers. Spoilers nonetheless. So, anyways, the intro sequence here, it just sets the mood overall, because it's like this little girl goes outside, and without spoiling, she's like looking around, and then boom, Nicolas Cage is right there. And you know what's gonna happen, but it's so terrifying because Nicolas Cage, the makeup, everything he does blows me away by how terrifying it is. A terrifying performance. That's a word you're gonna hear so much in this review, is terrifying, because I do feel like it is the scariest movie of the decade so far. So the performance by Nicolas Cage, stunning. The makeup, stunning. Everything about Nicolas Cage's look is fantastic. Maika Monroe, I didn't get her character in like the majority of the movie. I felt like from the very beginning until the very end, where we start getting some answers, I felt like she was kind of just put on the back burner and just kind of like this weird character that I could not connect with whatsoever. So it's very weird, because on one hand, I think she does great. The last act that she does, the range she's able to show is phenomenal. But the majority of the movie, she's just kind of there and kind of awkward, and I didn't really get her character. So there are a lot of things to love about her character, and it left out on a big high note. But overall, like, I don't feel like her character is as great as was the performance. Everybody else, phenomenal in the movie. Alright, so let's discuss what makes this movie so terrifying. Not only Nicolas Cage's performance, but I think one of the reasons that this movie is so scary is because I believe it can happen. Me, a Christian, I believe in God, obviously. So, and we're going to start kind of going into spoilers here in this territory. So, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, you should have clicked off already if you haven't seen the movie. If you have seen the movie, you're here now. Anywho, as a Christian, you got to believe in God, but you also got to believe in Satan. So, I don't want to fully spoil the movie. How do I say this? I'm going to say it like this. You got to believe in Satan. And so, when it started going into the satanic things that it does, at the very beginning I was like, oh, we're going in kind of like a supernatural route? Ooh, I don't like this. But it utilizes that so terrifyingly good to where I was terrified just watching how it unraveled. When we get to the huge twist here, we'll talk about that in a minute. It's a phenomenal twist, but it just makes it so scary. When we get Nicolas Cage just sitting around talking to Micah Monroe, and all of a sudden he goes, I'm not going to say what he says, because, come on, I'm a Christian, and I'm not going to say that because I don't want something bad to happen. You know what he says. He says, you know, if you've seen the movie, able to be so terrifying, because as a Christian, you're scared of that. You're scared of Satan. And so seeing a movie where Nicolas Cage is playing a serial killer Satanist is terrifying, both in the performance and the things he does. The movie is able to just make it so scary by taking it a supernatural route, but also making it feel grounded. Because I fully believe the things that happen in this movie can happen. It's a movie that remains terrifying because I believe, and even though, like, even laying in bed at night or just sitting around, I just think about it, and I think something like this can happen. And I'm not going to say what, obviously, but I'm just terrified because it feels so grounded, and it feels like something that's real. And it's hard to explain without going into full spoilers, but what happens feels so out of this world. But because of my beliefs as a Christian, I believe it's real, and it just feels so terrifying, put together by the terrifying performance by Nick Cage. Another thing that makes this movie so scary is the cinematography and the direction by Oswald Perkins, or Hopkins. Oswald Hopkins is his name. Anywho, the way that the movie's shot is it always has the characters in the center of the frame, which means you get a lot of empty space. Like, just imagine that these shelves right here with all my Funko Pops. I didn't even realize this. Guys, my mom came in here and she put a hat on Michael Myers. That's great. That's great. Anywho, imagine all these we're just empty space with doorways and passageways. You're not going to look at the characters. You're constantly looking around, looking for signs of whoever's there, because it has this eerie vibe to it. You have a feeling something is going to happen at any given moment, and most times it doesn't, but when something happens, you're scared. I was scared at multiple moments because you don't know if something's just gonna walk behind there because of the way that the film was shot and the way it looks, and the direction is phenomenal. This is one of the most unique horror movies I've ever seen, because the movie starts off and it's kind of like in a little box, like in a handheld camera. You'll get the reference later in the movie. My first thought was, that's going to be really distracting, isn't it? But then, it doesn't go out throughout the entire movie. So every time you get flashbacks, it's in this little box, and it's really shot cool, especially explained later on in the movie, and the way it's shot is just shot in an eerie and creepy way. Again, with just this fantastic vibe to it. You feel like it's a classic serial killer vibe with, the serial killer. You feel all of that because of the vibe, and it is done perfectly with fantastic direction. Everything that they went for to make this movie scary works. The cinematography, the vibe, the performances. It is terrifying. And I get it. I had a conversation with a woman on Twitter about why I thought it was a masterpiece, and she made some solid points why she didn't get the movie. But I got the movie because I think it's great. I think that a lot of things that they do, the vibe, the aesthetic, the cinematography, everything makes this movie absolutely terrifying. And that's the one word I'm going to describe this movie. Because people are saying, oh, it's really not that scary. Oh, I've seen scarier movies this year. And while I do agree, some movies could be scarier, Talk to Me, Nope, with big monsters, with things that scare you. This movie's scary to me because of the beliefs I have. And because I'm a Christian, I believe that Satan is real. that Satan can do the things that he does in this movie, and it's terrifying. I left the theater stunned. I left the theater thinking about this movie. It is 3 days later, and I'm still thinking about this movie. I want to go see it again because it's terrifying. I love being scared, and I was terrified during this movie. It captures everything it is, and I believe that Longlegs is the scariest movie of the 2020s. And I'm just going to throw that out there. This is an unpopular opinion, apparently, as the movie came out. But I think it's terrifying, and I think it's the scariest movie of the 2020s. And that's why it's one of my favorite movies of the year. It's not at number 1. It was at number 1 right as I left. But then I put it at 3 because I do believe Dune 2 and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes are better. I genuinely think like those are better movies. This one has its flaws. But this is at number 3 just because of everything it's able to accomplish. It's spectacular. It is one of my favorite movies of the year. I highly recommend you go see this movie. It has issues, and I don't really want to stay in its issues, but it's weird because there are a few issues. It's not just like one tiny little thing. There are a few. Like the pacing, however. Like there's sequences as we get to the end to where the movie just kind of drags for me a little bit. It goes down this path where we don't like learn any new reveals. We don't get anything interesting. It's just rehashing the same thing over and over for about 10 minutes, and it drags at that part. And there's just some other things in here as well. I have to dive into spoilers to go more into there, but I'm not going to do that. But some things that I had with the plot, like when it started going supernatural, some of the supernatural things I don't think were handled in a perfect way. Like, apparently, I can't say that because it's a big spoiler, but there was something that they did that I was just like, oh, okay, we're going that route. How she got assigned to the case, and so that was pretty weird. And yeah, so I found that the pacing had its issues from time to time. Sometimes that it dragged. Sometimes some of the stuff that it tries to go for doesn't fully work. But besides like issues I've had with the movie, I'm blown away because they were able to accomplish something so terrifying, so creepy, so eerie, that it gets under your skin. I went live last night, and I heard footsteps, and the first thing that went to my mind was, serial killer. A serial killer's in my house, they're gonna come kill me, and all that, because the movie stays in your head. The movie is terrifying. You believe that the things that happen in this movie are real, and that's everything that I wanted from the movie. That makes it so terrifying, and while it's got issues, I loved this movie. Before I give you my final score for Oswald Hopkins' Longlegs, I want to know your thoughts down below. While you're down there, subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the bell so you never miss another video. Again, 186, let's get to 200 very, very soon. And go subscribe to my second channel, More ZMC. I take clips from my live videos, and if you don't catch my live videos, if you don't want to watch the full thing, I post some important clips there. Like, eventually I'm going to put my top 20 superhero movies from a top 20, or from a all superhero movies I've seen ranked live stream. And then one of these times, like, I'm going to edit some questions out that people ask me, put them on there. Football season is next month. It starts. So I'm going to have my predictions on my second channel. Go check all that out if you're interested in sports and other niche things that I can't really talk about on my main channel. And with that said, Longlegs is horrifying. It captures everything it was trying to go for. And while it has some issues here that kind of undermine the film, I was just blown away. It stayed in my head, and it's the scariest movie of the 2020s. I'm going to give Longlegs an A+. So stay tuned. I'm going to have a review for this movie. It's my next video. I'm going to grab the poster I have right here. Fly Me to the Moon. That's going to be my next video review. And then I'm going to have a best horror movies of the 2020s. Best horror movies of the decade. Not really ranked, but I'm going to talk about them. So far I have 13. I'm going to try to watch the X trilogy before I film that video because I really want to include that. Stay tuned for all those videos, and with that said, subscribe to join the army. Peace out.